Good morning. Thank you for joining me. This is Michelle Love with Dynamic Change, and you are listening to KPCALP in Petaluma, a free range radio and TV station. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. I hope you are staying cool because it's been rather warm. And this show is what I do here is I'm a certified wellness coach, self-defense instructor, fitness trainer, and I have a degree in psychology. And I designed this show to give a lot of creative stimuli and thought around how can we create more wellness in our life? How can we manage all the emotional things that come up within our experience of being in your body and living in the world and having triggers and having things come up that sometimes we don't know how to solve. So I love to really break down the whole experience of emotional and psychological and stress experiences in life, and how can we heal them? How can we move forward in a way that's has more ease and peace and feel more balanced within ourselves and release old patterns that hold us back from having more just gentleness with ourselves and allow us to really feel like we're thriving. So today, and if you would like more information on me, you can always go to my website. It's dynamicchangewellness.com. You can also email me through the website. My email is dcwellness88@gmail.com. And if you have comments about the show or something that you would like discussed, because this is a weekly show on Wednesdays from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and it is called Dynamic Change. So I love to talk about topics that are challenging in life. So if there's anything that you would like problem solved, please just contact me. So today I decided I would like to discuss anger and how we approach anger in our life and how we can have a healthy relationship with our anger. And I feel like this is a really important topic because particularly for women in American society, and I think everyone, but particularly women, are not encouraged to have a really healthy expression of anger. And also because women are often encouraged to be people pleasers, what that can do is get in the way of having healthy boundaries with what we need if we feel like it's going to come out in a way that is unattractive. And so I think it's really important to look at when something pushes against us in a way where we feel very uncomfortable and maybe some anger comes up. That's really okay. And how can we express it in a way that we respect our boundaries? We can do it we can express anger in a way where it's not this hurtful thing where it's viewed as it can only be expressed in a way that is seen to cause harm. Because I think we can be upset in a way where there's anger is present, and it can have a really healthy, safe container of expression. It can be expressed in a way where we're not trying to hurt anybody or not projecting it on anyone, but really having a strong reaction that is still very, very healthy. And so I would like to look at that because I think often we have repressed anger, and if it has been repressed for a long time, it can build up to like this rage level. And I think it's really important to kind of look at like what have we been stuffing down? How much is sitting underneath our normal access into ourselves? Because I think a lot of times we are not aware. So looking at that, I think I'm going to make up my imaginary person for today. And so my imaginary name today, let's see, let's do Joan. So my imaginary person, Joan, I'm going to use as an example, has noticed that when she got to be in her 40s, that she had a really hard time expressing anger, that she was overly concerned with how people would receive her, if she would still be lovable if she expressed her anger. And so Joan realized that in feeling unlovable, if she was more direct with her boundaries in a very, very strong way, that she felt like she may lose some friendships if she was that direct with people. And so Joan, let's say she had a particular friendship, and Joan had this long-standing friendship with somebody, but it was kind of a superficial way of relating. And Joan noticed she was starting to feel triggered at times. And in this friendship, let's say her friendship, her companion, her friend's name is Tom. So Joan she noticed that when Tom was asking her to do certain favors within the friendship, that she felt really overextended, and she tried to tell Tom, I really don't have energy for that, and I'm sorry, I can't take you to these appointments. Maybe he's asking for Joan to give him rides to certain appointments and things like that. And she was really starting to feel not only overextended, but frustrated because Tom was not listening to what Joan was saying. And they've known each other for a very long time. And let's say 20 years. It's a long-standing friendship, and she really cares about Tom. And Joan's like, I really feel quite upset because I keep telling Tom that not only do I not have the energy, that I've been stressed out, my job's been having a lot going on, and I have some things going on in the personal life. So Joan has been relaying this information to Tom, and so she's starting to feel upset and a little angry because it feels like he's not even acknowledging that she's at a place where she really needs to take care of herself. And he keeps asking her over and over and over, I have these appointments. Let's say he's getting physical therapy because he had an injury, and he's just really leaning into Joan to help drive him because he can't drive until he heals, like a shoulder injury. Let's say that's what the situation is. So my imaginary person, Joan, is really starting to feel frustrated, really starting to feel triggered and kind of angry. And she realizes that she has some anger come up that is really intense, that it feels more like amplified beyond this particular dynamic that she's dealing with Tom. And she's realizing this is old anger. This is old anger from maybe her childhood, where she did not feel listened to. She could not have a voice. Maybe there was some really domineering family dynamics where it didn't feel safe to really have a voice. And so basically Joan has realized that she has this old anger, and it's a strong anger, and it's turned into this equivalent of some rage, and it's being triggered by her dynamic with Tom, where he is not listening, not realizing he is really stressing Joan out by continuously asking, when she keeps setting the boundary of, I cannot do that. And so Joan has realized that she's getting very triggered. She's realizing that she has some rage there, and she's at this crossroads within herself of where do I go from here? I really want to acknowledge my feelings. I really want to look at this old buildup of emotions and what is in the way of moving forward with this. And she realizes, Joan is realizing that she really grew up people pleasing. I think that is a very common dynamic for females. I really think it's changing now within America, so I'm very happy for that. The younger generations, I don't think you had these particular patterns so instilled upon you, so I am not projecting it on to the younger generations. I think they're going to be much healthier, much stronger, or not so much stronger, but able to express their boundaries and be assertive in ways that prior generations have struggled with. So I am very proud of the upcoming generations for their wisdom and doing things in new ways. But I'm talking about the people that did grow up with these patterns, and how can we look at that? So Joan realized that for her, she feels that she might lose this friendship, and she really cares about Tom. She's known Tom a really long time, and they're very close, but she feels like she has to go along with it. And this feeling of going along with it, what this does, right? What this does to this codependence trigger as well for codependency. When you go against what you really want to do, when you go against yourself to please someone else, this is really harmful to your own internal well-being, your own personal boundaries. And I think this really adds to levels of anger that are sitting there because it's stuffing this down and keeps stuffing it down. And Joan realizes that she can't stuff her anger anymore. And I think this is really, really, really powerful. I think this is something that people can really experience in life where all of a sudden they notice that they can't stuff things anymore. And I really want to speak to that because I think that is such a powerful moment in life when you realize I am saturated with how much, like the saturation is so full that I can't take any more of this particular trigger and stimuli. I have stuffed it forever. And I really, I can't express how important I think that is because I think we often don't realize that we are really saturated on certain levels with certain dynamics that are not healthy that we need to address. Because when we don't address them, I think that's when people have meltdowns, when they have like a nervous breakdown, when all of a sudden they're like, wow, or like depression sets in. It's because we have gotten so overly saturated with a particular amount of feelings and stimuli and a pattern that it's at a place where we can't cope with it anymore. We can't have defense mechanisms to adjust any further to try to navigate and work around what is sitting inside of us. So I think it's really important when you notice that you're having some really strong reactions to take a moment and take some breaths and try to take some days off and try to allow those feelings to come up because this can really stave off having a full-on meltdown, which is never comfortable. It's always messy, not fun, and unfortunately, I think that's part of life, which isn't necessarily unfortunate, but I'm just saying, like, maybe we can do it in a way where it doesn't have to be so debilitating and extreme, where it just disrupts life to this extreme extent. Like maybe we can notice when it's starting to happen and work with it. So it's a little more planned feeling. It's a little more like, oh, I realize I really have some big stuff coming up. I have some paid time off at work, or I'm going to reach out to all my friends and say, can you take the kids for a couple of days? And allow yourself to really feel it and heal and work with what needs to come up. And so with my imaginary person, Joan, and again, you're listening to Dynamic Change. My name is Michelle Love. This is KPCA LP in Petaluma radio TV station. And I'm talking about the pattern of how we work with our anger and how we work with repressed anger. So my imaginary person today is Joan, and Joan is dealing with her friendship with Tom, and she's noticed Tom has really triggered some old anger and rage that has been stuffed down within her for, her since her childhood. And so she feels really triggered by Tom continuously pushing her boundary. And she realizes she has just this intense anger that comes up. So to handle it, Joan is going to create space for herself. So first, she's going to tell Tom, I love you very much. I really recognize you need these rides because with your PT you cannot drive yourself, but I am unable to drive you. I can drive you next week. I need to take some time off this week because I realize I am not feeling well and I'm pretty stressed out. And I appreciate you understanding. And I'm going to take the next 4 days to kind of take care of myself. So you will not hear from me, but I'll contact you after that and we'll set up the rides for next week. So she creates space right away. Giving yourself space is so important. Joan needs to give herself some space from the continuous triggering of what she needs to heal. So creating that space is huge. And she realizes, she grew up with people pleasing and being codependent and everything. So stopping what is pushing and triggering on you, I think, is the first really important step. So she created that space. She set a boundary of, I can't do it at all this week. I'm not available this week. I'm not going to talk for 4 days. And then I will contact you and I will be available next week. And so that's huge. Giving us permission. I think giving herself permission to, she's loving herself by saying, this is my boundary. I'm taking a break. So powerful. And I think really when we work with understanding that we have to have a break sometimes, we have to be able to step back from life and look at what we need. And in order to do that, you have to push and create a boundary against sometimes the activities in our life. I think life is very active most of the time, very stimulating, and sometimes there's just a little too much going on. And sometimes you have to just really put the brakes on and say, okay, I'm going to push this out so I have a boundary where I have some space within my emotional experience. I have some space within the pace of my life, and I can just slow down enough to really check in with myself. So Joan did that, and Tom can feel however he wants about it. Hopefully he handled that really well. And but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People like us, and I think that's a really big issue with codependency, with being a people pleaser, is feeling like I will not be accepted or loved if I express anger or if I have extremely assertive boundaries. And to be honest with you, I think to be as healthy as possible, we have to really just look at what we need. And it's not about what other people need. It's not about worrying about how they're going to receive our boundaries. If you are very strong within yourself that I need these boundaries, and you make that the priority, it helps regulate and balance out all your other relationships. And so when you start with you, you're going to be happier, you're going to feel emotionally more safe, you're going to be regulating your energy and emotional needs that you need in your life so that you feel 100%, you feel whole within yourself. And when you are coming from 100% of wellness, 100% of wholeness within yourself, and really loving yourself and making that effort to love yourself, that means when you are there for other people, when Joan is available to communicate with Tom in 4 days, she's going to be regulated within herself. She is going to be happy. She's not going to come from this place of maybe feeling angry and triggered because she's not taking care of what she needs. And she's going to, and so we looking at how do you feel in life? Noticing when you are triggered, noticing when you start to feel angry. So when we start to feel angry, it's an indication that we need to do something to take care of ourselves. So to look at that, and really it's not a bad thing, it's just an indication, it's just a clue to something's a little off here. What do I need to do? What do I need to adjust? So Joan, and I think that's really wise, and if you have the ability to take some time off from work, when you realize you're really feeling something, you're not even sure what that is, but something is really you're really feeling upset, take the time off. Take a sick day. If you don't have sick days, lighten up your schedule any way you can. Sometimes I feel you just contact everyone, all your friends, call in all the favors. Call everyone and say, I realized I just need to ask for some help. Can you watch the kids? Can you help me with my dog? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, ask for help and just do whatever you can to receive some space in your life by taking things off of your plate any way you can. Or sometimes, if there's no one to ask, just decide the bare bones. What do I need to get done, and what can I not worry about right now? What can wait? Because I need some decompression time. So Joan really just looks at her life. She took some days off, and then after taking some days off, she also looked at, okay, what can I absolutely put on hold? All those errands can wait till tomorrow. I'm not going to talk to anybody today. Like, she really looks at, I need to not talk to anybody for the rest of the day. In fact, I'm going to go home, and all I'm going to do is stop by the store, and maybe I'm going to get a sandwich or the deli, something that's pre-made, and some popcorn. And she's going to go home, and maybe she crawls into bed, puts on her pajamas, and sits with her cat and just watches some really sad movies, or a movie that has action that, maybe sometimes, the movies can be interesting. They can be cathartic, right? And so I think it can be really helpful, like if 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 you feel like there's a big emotional buildup, if you know something helps you express emotion, like a movie that's really moving, really emotional, maybe it's really dramatic, put on something that just helps you cry. If you have that ability, use that and just sit there, and maybe she needs to just sit in bed and cry for a couple hours. And that's fantastic, because maybe there's stuff sitting in there that Joan just needed to find a way to let it come up and out. So she decides to take the evening to not even process what's going on with her, just allow herself to cry and cry and cry and cry and cry, and watch the show, eat the popcorn, pet the cat, and talk to no one, and create that space. And then the next day, because she was able to take off 4 days, then maybe the next day she gets up in the morning and reassesses her list of what she decided she does need to attend to. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to deal with that until 2 o'clock. I'm going to take this morning to, spend half an hour journaling about what I think I was grieving yesterday. And she realizes that she really has some deep wounding around feeling like if she tries to take care of herself and have boundaries, that she'll be abandoned, that she will not be lovable, that she grew up where not only could she not express her needs, but if she did express her needs, her family dynamic felt like she would be abandoned. Not only not receive love, but just abandoned on an emotional level. And how her inner child really had some grief, some anger, and it just didn't feel fair. And so she really is noticing that she has this built up anger and rage that she had to just feel like she could only implode and absorb this dynamic within the family unit of everyone else's anger and stuff that was going on that she grew up around, and that she just felt like she had to internalize, because she was, let's say she was super empathic as a kid, just and really sensitive. She just internalized everyone else's anger, and not only did that not feel good, so she felt like a sponge absorbing this hostility, but she also felt like she had to be the good little girl. So Joan, my imaginary person, was feeling like she had to be this good little girl, and that what she noticed growing up in her family dynamic was that anger never had a good resolution, and it ended up with people looking like they didn't have a love connection with how they were expressing their anger. It just caused so much discord. And so she just really felt like if she expressed her own anger and her own strong boundaries, had a voice for healthy anger, that it would create this instant discord, this instant disconnect, and there would be no love. So she realizes that, she's journaling, and so that was really profound for her. And then she's like, okay, now I'm gonna set this aside and let that just she let herself really just pour it out, really journaled about it. And she's like, okay, now it's 2 o'clock, I gotta run these errands. So she runs a few errands, and then she comes home and she's had some time to just let it sink in. And I think emotions are like that. There's like these layers of allowing things to come up, and then, like, after she grieved the night before and then she journaled, it's like bringing up each layer. And then she went on her errands she had to do that were important, and now she's ready to really just allow herself to breathe and think about it. So she's like, now I can process it, I've allowed it to come up, and I'm just gonna really let myself calmly think about it. She's gotten rid of those big triggered feelings, the emotions, and so she's cleared that space within herself. So my imaginary person, Joan, is starting to feel better, and that overwhelming feeling of the emotions is now alleviated to where she's like, I'm just gonna breathe, and maybe I'll just go for a nice slow walk. So now she's moving it through her body, and so it's the evening time, it feels calm, it feels peaceful, it's cooling down outside, and maybe she just lives in an area where just going for a walk is very peaceful feeling. The sun's slowly starting to go down, and these things help regulate us. We have to find ways to find peace in our life, in our environment, and slow it down. So my imaginary person, Joan, is working on this regulation. And as she walks, she's just thinking about it. Okay, she's taking some deep breaths. She's taken this space. She's not going to answer her phone for the next couple days. You know, she's putting everyone on hold. She's like, I'm not going to talk on the phone. I'm going to text anyone that texts me. I'm just going to tell them, look, you know, I'm a little under the weather. I'll talk to you in 3 days. Like, she's just really setting these boundaries of, I'm not going to talk to Tom, her friend. I'm not going to talk to, you know, I told work, I have these 4 days off. I will check in with them after 4 days. And if there's like the phone calls, she's just going to let it go straight to voicemail. Maybe it was just a spam call. Like, she's going to start getting rid of the stimuli, because we get really stimulated. And so she's going to allow these triggers to really come up and really understand and honor them by creating space for herself to process them. And when we create space, you are going to be able to heal some of these patterns. I think in life, a lot of times we're not acknowledging the triggers. We don't know where they come from sometimes. And if we don't disrupt how we cope with our triggers, if we don't stop and say, I realize something is coming up, and really acknowledge what's coming up. If you acknowledge what is coming up and you process it and give it space and time to come up, not only are you cleaning up what has been stuffed and stored in your emotional realm inside your body that isn't healthy, but you're able to realize it's a trigger, it's old baggage, and you can work on healing it, so in the future you can respond in a way that you prefer, that is taking care of yourself. So this is what Joan is doing, my imaginary person I made up. And so then Joan also decides to do a guided meditation around this. And you can do this with me now. So what Joan realizes is that she has this feeling in her body of this old rage and anger from her childhood that makes her feel sick in her stomach, makes her feel anxious, makes her feel a little unsafe emotionally, like she's not lovable. And it's this anger she processed and absorbed from her the environment of the family, and it wasn't even hers. And then what does feel like hers is this resentment that she was not allowed to ever really express her boundary, that she just felt like she had to people please and absorb this anger from the family unit as a child, and how hurtful that was. So she realizes she has this yucky feeling in her gut that she has been living with, and that her friend, her imaginary friend Tom, has triggered. So we're going to do a guided meditation of how you can work with using your intention, your emotional focus, your breathing, and to heal and shift this kind of dynamic. So you can do this with me now. You could sit down or lay down on the ground or in bed or on the couch, whatever is comfortable. I like to sit with my palms up on my legs, sitting up nice and straight. And we're going to do some deep breathing. So this is what I would recommend for Joan or anybody that wants to kind of heal and shift and release a pattern like this that could be experienced in the body. So we're going to take some deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth. We're going to take 2 more deep breaths. And 1 more very deep breath. And so this feeling that Joan has in her gut, she is going to, with her breath, push this feeling out of her body. And she's going to give it a color. So she's going to say, oh, it's like a gross gray color. This yucky feeling of old emotional anger and stuff she's absorbed from her childhood. And she's going to give it this color, and it's going to look like this big ball of solid gunk that as she breathes, she's going to be kind of I love this, use her own feistiness. So if we have healthy anger, that can also be, in my opinion, kind of equated with this kind of feisty fierceness inside. Healthy anger of, I'm tired of holding on to this, and I'm going to be feisty for myself. It's like being your own warrior, your own warrioress within you, and I'm going to just be done with this. And I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to hold this in my body anymore. And she's going to use that feistiness, that fierceness to push it out of her body and push that ball that she's made a visualization of it, this ball of gray gunk out of her body, and put it in front of her. Okay? So we're going to take some deep breaths. And you can do this with me now of just practicing this type of visualization and using your intention and your own strength, your own feeling indignant of, I'm not going to carry and harbor this within me anymore. I don't feel good with this. Okay? So taking some deep breaths. Exhaling, imagine pushing that out of the body with your mind, with your intention, with your focus, and your breath. Breathing in. Exhale, pushing it out. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale, pushing it out. One more breath. Exhale, pushing it out. And so now Joan feels and can visualize and see that this is out of her body. And she's going to send love and healing, first starting with love. She's going to send pink light from her heart for love towards this gray thing, because we can shift things within ourselves by having some compassion for it. You know, she's going to be having compassion for herself. Like, wow, that was really, had a lot of grief around it. She cried a lot about holding on to this, and that, you know, feeling the pain of her inner child not only absorbing, feeling like they had no choice but to absorb this really yucky stuff that had nothing to do with her, but also the impact on her was she felt like she could not express her own boundaries in a strong, really assertive way, or feel entitled to get upset when she needed to. Sometimes it is very valid to be angry in a healthy way, and she realized that she never felt like she was allowed to even do that for herself, and this had really caused some internal pain for her. So Joan at this point is really having compassion for herself and her experience in her inner child. So taking some deep breaths. Joan's going to send pink light from her heart. You can do this with me. Towards this ball of experience. Exhaling, sending that pink light from her heart to send love and compassion for her experience. Breathing in deeply. Exhaling fully, sending pink light out. Two more breaths. Last breath. So now Joan is going to send some healing, just some healing from her heart of really wanting to release this. She's like, I am going to let this go. I recognize I don't have to hold on to it anymore, that I can be free of this. I'm moving forward, and this trigger is going to heal when I do this. So she creates the focus, the intention of, I am going to heal this thing from the past because it's no longer present, and it can be released and no longer be a trigger, that it can keep lessening as a trigger. It can heal, it can shift. We have to believe something is possible before we can do that. So you really have to focus on, this can be let go. Believe in the possibility. So Joan's like, I'm going to believe in that possibility. She takes some breaths and she pushes out this green healing energy from her heart towards the gray ball. 2 more breaths. Another deep breath. And 3 more deep breaths. And Joan realizes that she wants to really work on now holding that stimuli from the past outside of her body. She noticed that she feels a shift with that. She noticed that she feels some relief. And my imaginary person Joan is going to continue to focus on every day doing this exercise of releasing this feeling, and see if there's anything left. Every day she's going to go and feel, look inside her body and say, do I still feel this? And if she does, she's going to keep practicing this, where she pushes it out with her intention, with her feistiness, with this healthy anger of, I'm releasing this pattern, this old experience, and letting it go. So every day she's going to tune into this. And then now she realizes that she wants to put something new into her belly to fill up that void. So she's going to take some deep breaths, and she is going to put, she loves purple, so she's going to put this beautiful purple, like sparkly energy in her belly for her inner child, and just honor how loving her inner child is, how lovable, how kind, what a good person she is, and really just put that love and that joy inside her body for her inner child. So she's going to breathe in now and imagine this beautiful, beautiful energy coming in that carries this emotion, this intention. So she breathes in this beautiful purple sparkly energy and puts it down into her belly. And she noticed her inner child, the age she's working with, let's say, is like 5 years old. And she's just going to give it like this magical, beautiful feeling for her inner child. So it's just fun for her little 5-year-old. She breathes in, absorbing this goodness in her belly, this kindness, creating these emotional experiences and quality for her inner child. Filling up her belly. You can do this with me now. 2 more breaths. And last breath. And then she's going to really ground her energy. I've talked about doing this before in other shows. So when you inhale, And then you exhale, you imagine your energy dropping down out of your feet and your tailbone into the earth and growing roots. So you can do this with me now, taking some breaths. Exhale, releasing out of the feet and the tailbone. Just imagine energy coming down out of those areas of your body and just growing these roots into the earth so you feel connected to the earth. And exhale, releasing the energy. Growing those roots into the earth. 2 more breaths. And last breath. And then Joan's going to complete this guided meditation with putting a bubble of insulation energy around her whole being, like totally encapsulates her body. And she wants to make it this beautiful orange today. So putting this you can do this at the same time, part of this guided meditation, put a beautiful bubble of color around your body that encapsulates you, bottom of your feet, all around your whole body, all around the top of your head, this beautiful bubble. And we're going to do orange. You can do a different color if you like. And this bubble just gives Joan some insulation, kind of just pulls all this goodness in towards her being. And we're going to leave the gray sludge outside the body. And it can just be healing there. And Joan can send that healing throughout the day. Every day she can do this guided meditation and work on healing that. And inside this bubble, she's also going to put some more energy that is a filter for just really the love she wants to feel for her inner child. The validation of you are worthy to have boundaries. You're worthy to stand up for yourself. If you feel angry, that's okay. You can express anger in a way that is still, respectful, and it can be this healthy expression where you can, Joan could say something. She's going to have this energy, this filter, and let's say it's also orange, this beautiful orange energy that fills up the bubble of when Joan expresses her anger, she can say it in a way, I feel angry when you do not listen to my boundary of letting you know that I am not available this week. That she can say that to Tom and say, I feel angry when you're not listening. I love you. You need to listen to me. And when I say that I cannot do something, I do not want you to ask me again. I feel angry if you do not respect my first answer of I cannot do it. And she imagines her saying this boundary for herself and really being assertive, saying it in a very strong way. And this is the filter. This is the energy in that bubble of feeling safe and lovable as she rehearses what she can say to express her boundary and say, I feel angry when this happens. And it doesn't have to be this big ugly thing. It doesn't have to be this thing where all of a sudden she feels abandoned. That she can say this, and as she imagines rehearsing this boundary, this expression, this dialogue, that she's still going to feel safe, she's still going to feel lovable, she's still going to acknowledge how wonderful she is. And if Tom doesn't like it, that's also okay. That's his stuff. It has nothing to do with her. The most important thing is that Joan respects what she needs to say. She says what she needs to say, and she's taking care of herself so this trigger can start dissolving. This gray gunk in front of her can keep shifting and changing, and it's not a part of her emotional baggage anymore. So we're going to take one last deep breath to complete this guided meditation, breathing in and releasing that breath, releasing the stress. And just really tuning into feeling the shift, feeling the different perspective to approaching this kind of dynamic. So again, my name is Michelle Love. You are listening to Dynamic Change on KPCALP in Petaluma. And my imaginary person for today was Joan. And this whole show I've been discussing healthy anger and how sometimes in society, particularly females, are encouraged to often people please and not express anger a lot of the time, and how that can build up within our psyche, within our emotional realm, and how can we work with that? How can we recognize we have some built up stimuli that gets triggered, and how can we start moving forward in a way that expresses healthy anger where we still feel lovable and can really take care of ourselves so we can be 100% with other people and be happier. So Joan, at this point, she has 2 more days off from work to just rest. Maybe she needed to sleep. Maybe the sleep really helped her process all the feelings that came up. And she's deciding how she's going to approach Tom. And she decided after the end of the 4th day, she texts Tom. And I think texting is really powerful because it's a step towards communication where it's not so stimulating, not so loaded. It's a little easier than having to do it just in person right away. And she texts Tom and she says, I love you so much. You have been my friend for 20 years and I want you to continue being my friend. But I need to let you know that I feel like you're not listening to my boundary. And I was feeling that you were pushing against my boundary, and I felt angry because I really want you to understand that I felt very stressed when I had already told you that I can't do it this week. So because I know we have this love, I feel like I can tell you this, and I'm hoping you can really hear me when I say that when I say something one time going forward, I want you to really internalize that I already answered you. I will not change my answer, that I really appreciate you and our friendship, but I want you to acknowledge and respect my first answer and do not ever ask me again. I really want you to work on listening to this. And she sends this off to him, and he responds however he's going to respond, and that's totally fine. That she has made this commitment to her inner child, to herself, that however he handles it is his choice. And if he decides not to handle it well, then she can respond again. Let's say he gets mad, and rather than her feeling like it's her fault, she's going to stick to her guns, and she's going to say, well, then I can no longer drive you. You have to find someone else. If there's this tension around it, then I cannot do this for you. I love you very much. We can talk in a few weeks, but I'm going to take some space. And Tom's just going to have to deal with it. And that's it. And so she continuously upholds her boundary. She doesn't have to back down from it. She doesn't have to change how she feels around it. She can continuously keep working with her inner child, reassuring her inner child, you are lovable, and really look that this is just Tom's reaction. It has nothing to do with Joan. Joan can just continuously stick to her guns and take care of herself and notice what she needs to do to uphold those boundaries. So that's my example today. I am going to read about one of the shows we have here today, and we have so many wonderful shows on KPCALP in Petaluma, and I love the creativity of all these topics that we have within these shows. So this show I want to share with you today is called The Rabbit Hole, and it's on Wednesdays. It's now at 5 o'clock to 7 p.m. and it's hosted by Darren Scott. And this show, music can spark memories or result in discovery, creating a chain reaction that leads the listener on a musical journey that may never end. This is how the rabbit hole was conceived. It is representative of my memories and discoveries that result from my love of actively listening to music, continuously doing research, and always learning something new. Each show has a defined starting point, but where my listeners and I end up is a mystery. This is the rabbit hole. See, I love that. I love the shows that they have here. There's some really creative, interesting people that are doing some shows. So that one sounds quite entertaining and has a little mystery. I like mystery. So again, my name is Michelle Love. You have been listening to Dynamic Change. And today we talked about anger, expressing healthy anger. I give an example of a woman that had a childhood experience of a pattern where she not only felt like she had to internalize the family dynamic of how anger was being expressed, but also that she was not allowed to express her own anger as a child and her own feelings of how did it feel to absorb everyone's anger as a kid. And so looking at that and how this can sit within your body, and considering how much do we do codependency type behaviors where we want to people please or adjust our personal needs, and very valuable, very valid for our own well-being, our own needs. How often do we adjust ourselves in a way that is harmful? And I think it's really important to look at that. You know, it's almost like we harm ourselves when we are putting the other people ahead of us in a way that really makes us feel frustrated, that makes us feel triggered, that makes us, because that stress and frustration, when that is held in, I mean, that it kind of becomes this solid thing within our body, and it can really form into anger. It can really become this kind of chunk of stuff that when we stuff things in our body, at some point becomes something that can manifest physically. And so my background working in the wellness field for over 30 years has been with working with the physical body, the emotional body, the somatic experience, and I've worked with injury, I've worked in physical therapy, I've worked in mental health, all these different things. Everything works together. You cannot separate your physical well-being from your emotional well-being, with your mental well-being. All of it works together. And really paying attention to, if we do not pay attention to how we're feeling emotionally and how much stress impacts us and how much time we are spending with looking at how am I feeling. I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling stressed, and try to really put the brakes on our life to give it some space where we can really tune in. And often we don't know exactly what we're sitting on, what is being stuffed and what is sitting there, but really pay attention to, I'm not feeling well, and I'm going to take some space to try to figure out what is going on with me and work on all the layers so you can be as healthy as possible. You can feel really healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I hope you have enjoyed today's show. Again, you can go to my website for all the different services I provide at dynamicchange.wellness.com. My name is Michelle Love. You have been listening to Dynamic Change. This show I upload to my YouTube channel where you can watch all the shows. The YouTube channel is Michelle Love with dynamicchange.wellness.com. And I hope your day is amazing. I hope you are taking care of yourself. I hope you are having strong boundaries for yourself. And I hope that you have days off, and I hope you're playing and having fun. And it's been my pleasure to speak with you today, and I look forward to speaking to you next time.